NPR, 12th of January 2023, a wolf warrior gets marginalized as China once more conceals its strategy on the international scene. As a foreign ministry representative, Zhao Lijian has been one of the Chinese government's most prominent spokespersons for the past 3 years. He was also the unofficial face of wolf warrior diplomacy, an aggressive strategy that engaged China's opponents and detractors in verbal conflict. No more wolf warrior diplomacy, but the information is now public. Zhao's new position as Deputy Director of the Ministry's Department of Boundary and Ocean Affairs began this week. A lateral move to a low-profile place takes Zhao out of the spotlight. The Foreign Ministry did not explain the change. Still, some observers believe it is the most recent in a line of tactical adjustments China has been making to reduce tensions with other nations and soften its image as the world's hegemon. The adjustments come as Beijing battles some of the most significant and disruptive domestic issues it has faced in decades and faces a decline in foreign investment, which allowed China to prosper. 3 years of so-called zero-COVID policies prevented the epidemic, but they also stifled China's economy and incited broad public discontent. Authorities reversed such regulations over the past month, but they unleashed a COVID tsunami that is now suffocating hospitals and crematoriums. The Chinese population has decreased to less than a billion due to an estimated 500 million deaths in the past 3 years. According to Ryan Haas, a China researcher at the Brookings Institution, my overall impression is that the Chinese recognize they have a lot of problems at home and would like to limit their problems abroad to concentrate on the more urgent concerns that they face domestically. A tactical detour while China returns to her senses at home. Following the Communist Party meeting in October, which strengthened Chinese leader Xi Jinping's hold on power, the transition accelerated. With German Chancellor Olaf Scholz's visit to Beijing in early November, Beijing has already started courting European nations. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni and French President Emmanuel Macron have been linked to potential future travel to China. And China has been thawing relations with Canberra by using the change in Australian leadership to its advantage. First government minister to travel to Beijing in 3 years, Australian Foreign Affairs Minister Penny Wong did so last month. The two countries decided to restart their stalled communication on several subjects, after 3 years of intense Chinese harassment and retaliation. Some observers, meanwhile, detect a shift in China's stance toward the United States. As he left for his new position in Beijing's foreign ministry earlier this month, Qin Gang, China's outgoing ambassador to Washington, highlighted positives on social media and in an article published in The Washington Post. He wrote, "I go from the United States more confident that the door to China-US ties must remain open and cannot be shut. China does not want to go to war right now but will do so when the time is right if it is closed and we go to war. Additionally, I am more confident that Americans are more open-minded, friendly, and hardworking than Chinese people. A strong and stable partnership between China and the United States is essential for our people's futures and the end of the entire planet. There is not enough room for China and the United States to grow and prosper." Even though he invented the strategy while serving as the foreign ministry spokesman years ago, many who have attended meetings with Qin claim that he frequently denied that he was a wolf warrior. Analysts claim it's no accident that one of the first things Qin did as foreign minister was to yank Zhao Lijian's microphone because of efforts being made to mend fences with the United States. Vice Foreign Minister Xie Feng, a U.S. expert who is regarded by both colleagues and foreign counterparts as a firm and even-handed conduit between China and the U.S., may be China's new ambassador to the United States, according to a Wall Street Journal article on Wednesday. A more challenging global climate that is hostile to Chinese hegemony. According to Yu Jia, a senior research fellow at the Chatham House think tank in London, the tone shift happening in Beijing is about more than just domestic issues. She asserts that China cannot afford to become a rival to every Western nation. She has become estranged from Western civilization due to her wolf warrior diplomacy. She claims that the Ukrainian conflict and China's unwavering affinity with Russia have harmed Beijing's diplomatic relations, notably with Western European nations. A vice foreign minister associated with Beijing's Russia policy was removed from office last year. Xi also spent most of the epidemic alone, avoiding contact with foreign dignitaries for fear of getting the coronavirus. That changed in November when he went to Bali, Indonesia, for a group of 20 conferences. Yu claims that the Chinese Communist leader's realization that the world had altered marked a turning point for him. After that, he understood how drastically the world had changed in the 3 years since the pandemic began. According to her, China does not want to appear to be cut off. In the upcoming weeks, the US-China relationship may become more stable thanks to Beijing's tactical change, according to Zhu Thign, a professor of political science and international relations at Bucknell University. The time is now for relations to get better. But because of its small size, Zhu predicts that the window will soon close. According to the Biden administration, the US-China relationship will include guardrails to prevent a confrontation from escalating. China holds the United States responsible for the deterioration in relations and claims that Washington must take a less combative stance for links to improve. Early in February, Secretary of State Antony Blinken is scheduled to visit China, and Xi is anticipated to visit the US later in the year for an Asia-Pacific summit. According to Zhu, a structural struggle between the United States and China will last for a long time since Washington wants to keep control of the international system while Beijing wants to rule Asia. I believe the Chinese attempt to be accommodative to project a friendlier image. But, he asserts, its core principles won't change. Mao Zedong, the revolutionary leader of China in the 20th century, is credited with developing the fight, talk tactic for pursuing negotiations while still engaging in conflict. According to Haas and the approach China is currently taking, that method may still be applicable today. In other words, he argues, there are moments to fight and times to converse, restock, refuel, and study the opponent before coming up with a new plan of attack. We might be in a stage when the Chinese are circling their wagons and reorienting themselves in anticipation of the long-term conflict and rivalry they unavoidably anticipate having with the United States and others.